Zariah Cole's quiet bookstore life takes a dramatic turn when Hollywood's golden boy Liam Carter stumbles in from a storm, soaked, desperate, and hiding a dangerous secret. But when the press paints her as his scandalous lover, her world spirals out of control. Can she survive the spotlight, or will this millionaire's secrets destroy them both? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The rain pounded against the windows of Zariah Cole's small bookstore cafe, Literary Brew, as she wiped down the last table. At 32, Zariah had built a life she was proud of in the quiet town of Oakwood. The store wasn't fancy, but it was hers, a warm space with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, cozy reading nooks, and the best coffee in town. Another day done, she said to herself, glancing at the clock. It was almost midnight. Thunder cracked outside, making her jump. Storms always made her nervous, especially when closing up alone. Just as she was about to turn off the lights, a loud banging at the door startled her. She froze, clutching her cleaning rag. Through the rain-streaked glass, she could make out a tall figure hunched against the downpour. "We're closed," she called out. The banging continued, more desperate this time. Zariah hesitated, then moved closer to the door. The person outside looked soaked to the bone. "Please," a deep voice called through the door. "I need help." Against her better judgment, Zariah unlocked the door, opening it just enough to see who was there. The man stumbled forward, nearly falling into her arms. He was drenched, his expensive-looking clothes clinging to his body. "Thank you," he gasped, leaning against the doorframe. "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go." When he looked up, Zariah's breath caught in her throat. Even with rain dripping from his face and his hair plastered to his forehead, she recognized him instantly. Liam Carter, the Liam Carter, movie star, millionaire. The man whose face was on billboards and magazine covers across the country. "Yes," she started. "Please," he cut her off, his voice low and urgent. "Don't tell anyone I'm here." Zariah's mind raced. Why was Hollywood's golden boy pounding on her door in the middle of a storm, looking like he'd been running for his life? "Are you hurt?" she asked, noticing he was favoring his right leg. "No." "Yes." "I don't know." He ran a shaky hand through his wet hair. "I just need somewhere to hide for a few hours. Please." Something in his eyes, fear, desperation, exhaustion, made Zariah's decision for her. She locked the door behind him and flipped the open sign to closed. "You can sit down over there," she said, pointing to a table in the corner away from the windows. "I'll get you a towel." When she returned from the back room with a clean towel and a cup of hot coffee, Liam was slumped in the chair, his head in his hands. "Here," she offered. "You look like you need this." He took the towel gratefully, drying his face. "I can't thank you enough, Miss Zariah." "Zariah Cole." "Zariah," he repeated, his voice warming slightly. I know who you are, Mr. Carter." He winced. "Just Liam, please." Zariah sat across from him, studying his face. Up close, he looked different from the perfect images she'd seen in movies and magazines. There were dark circles under his eyes and a small scar near his left eyebrow that makeup artists usually covered. He looked real. Human. "Do you want to tell me why one of the most famous actors in the world is banging on my door at midnight? Looking like he's running from the law?" Liam sipped the coffee, his hands still trembling slightly. "It's complicated." "I've got time," Zariah said, though she was exhausted and wanted nothing more than to go home to her small apartment above the shop. Liam's eyes darted to the windows as if expecting someone to be watching. "There are people looking for me. People who want to—" He trailed off. "I was at a party at a hotel downtown. Something happened, something bad. I needed to get away and I just started driving. My car broke down about a mile from here and I saw your light on." Zariah frowned. "Should I be worried? Are these people dangerous?" "No, not like that. It's just—" Liam rubbed his face with the towel. "Hollywood stuff, politics, lies. I found out some things about my manager, about the studio, money that's gone missing, a scandal they're trying to cover up. When I confronted them, things got ugly. And now they're after you? They want to make sure I don't talk to anyone, especially not the press." He looked at her with tired eyes. I just need somewhere to lay low until morning. Then I'll be out of your hair. Zariah hesitated. She lived a quiet, drama-free life, and this man was the walking definition of drama. But she couldn't send him back out into the storm. I have a small apartment upstairs, she said finally. You can sleep on the couch for tonight. The relief on Liam's face was immediate. Thank you, I promise I'll be gone before you open tomorrow. Upstairs, Zariah's apartment was modest but comfortable. A living room with a small kitchen, a bedroom and a bathroom. It wasn't what someone like Liam Carter was used to, but it was clean and safe. The couch pulls out, she explained, grabbing sheets and a blanket from a closet. Bathroom's there if you want to clean up. Liam stood awkwardly in the middle of her living room, looking out of place in his expensive clothes, even wet as they were. This is very kind of you. It's just for tonight, Zariah reminded him and herself. You can tell me the rest of the story in the morning. She showed him how to pull out the sofa bed and left him to get settled while she went to her room. As she changed into her pajamas, the reality of the situation hit her. Liam Carter was sleeping in her apartment. It was surreal. Despite her exhaustion, sleep didn't come easily to Zariah that night. She tossed and turned, wondering if she'd made a mistake letting a stranger into her home, celebrity or not. Outside, the storm raged on, rain lashing against her bedroom window. Around 3 in the morning, a loud crash woke her. Zariah sat up, heart pounding. She heard movement in her living room. Grabbing her phone, ready to call 911, she cautiously opened her bedroom door. Liam was standing by the window, peering through the blinds. At the sound of her door, he turned sharply. I'm sorry, he whispered. I thought I heard something outside. You're paranoid, Zariah said, but she moved to the window beside him and looked out. The street below was empty, rain-slicked and silent under the streetlights. Maybe, Liam admitted, but when people are actually out to get you, it's not really paranoia. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the rain. You should try to get some sleep, Zariah said finally. Whatever's going on, you'll handle. It better if you're rested. Liam nodded, running a hand through his now dry hair. In the dim light from the street, Zariah could see just how handsome he really was. Not in the polished, perfect way he appeared in movies, but in a raw, vulnerable way that felt more real. Good night, Zariah, he said softly. And thank you again. Good night. Liam. Back in her bed, Zariah stared at the ceiling, listening to the creaks of the sofa bed as Liam settled back in. This was crazy. Tomorrow, he would leave, and her life would go back to normal. This would be just a strange story to tell her best friend Maya, the night Hollywood showed up at her door. But when Zariah finally drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with dark figures chasing her through rain-soaked streets, and a sore pair of tired eyes that looked at her like she was the only safe harbor in a storm. Zariah woke to the smell of coffee. For a moment she was confused. Had she left the coffee maker on? Then the events of the night before came rushing back. Liam Carter, the storm, the mysterious trouble he was in. She got out of bed quickly, grabbing her robe. When she opened her bedroom door, she found Liam in her small kitchen, his back to her as he poured coffee into 2 mugs. Good morning, he said, turning with a smile. I hope you don't mind. I found the coffee and thought I'd make us both a cup. In the morning light, he looked different, rested but still on edge. He'd found a t-shirt somewhere, one of her oversized sleep shirts that she sometimes wore, and it stretched tight across his broad shoulders. The sight of him in her kitchen, in her clothes, was disorienting. Thanks, she said, taking the mug he offered. Did you sleep okay? Better than I expected to, Liam admitted. Your couch is surprisingly comfortable. They sat at her small kitchen table, an awkward silence stretching between them. In the harsh light of day, the reality of having a Hollywood star in her apartment felt even more bizarre. So, Zariah said finally, are you going to tell me what's really going on? Liam sighed, staring into his coffee. It's a mess. I found out my manager, Derek, has been embezzling money from my production company. Millions. When I confronted him last night at the hotel, he denied everything. Then he threatened me. Threatened you how? He said if I went public, he'd release some compromising information about me. Things that could ruin my career. Liam's knuckles went white around his mug. I lost my temper. We fought. Physical, I mean. Someone called security and I ran. I couldn't face a scandal, not with my new movie. About to release, Zariah frowned. So you're hiding from your manager and hotel security? And the press. If they find out about the fight, it'll be everywhere. Liam Carter loses it. Hollywood's golden boy has meltdown. He shook his head. Derek knows how to spin things. He'll make me look unstable. What are you going to do? I need to talk to my lawyer. Figure out how to handle the embezzlement situation without it turning into a public spectacle. He looked up at her, his blue eyes intense. I should go. I've already involved you too much. Before Zariah could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter. She picked it up to see a news alert. Her stomach dropped as she read the headline. Liam? I think you might be too late. She turned the phone to show him. The headline read, Breaking. Liam Carter assaults manager. Flees hotel with unknown woman. Beneath it was a blurry security camera image of Liam running through the hotel lobby, and beside it, a clearer photo of Zariah locking up her bookstore from earlier that week. Liam's face went pale. How did they... I didn't leave with anyone. They... Must have tracked you somehow, Zariah said, her voice shaking as she scrolled through the article. It says witnesses saw you entering a small business in Oakwood late last night. She looked up, meeting his eyes. My bookstore. I'm so sorry, Liam said, his voice thick with regret. I never meant to drag you into this. Zariah was about to respond when a loud knocking came from downstairs, at the front door of her shop. She froze. Are you expecting someone? Liam asked. Quietly, Zariah shook her head. The shop doesn't open for another 2 hours. They both moved to the window. Below, on the street in front of Literary Brew, were 3 news vans. Reporters with cameras stood at the door, knocking repeatedly. They go. Found us? Liam said grimly. How did they know I live above the shop? Zariah wondered aloud, panic rising in her chest. Someone must have talked. The real estate listings, maybe. It wouldn't be hard to figure out. Liam ran a hand through his hair. Zariah, I am so sorry. The knocking continued, more insistent now. Zariah could hear voices calling up, asking, 4 comments. Ms. Cole, is Liam Carter with you? Can you tell us about your relationship? What relationship? Zariah muttered. I barely know you. Welcome to my world, Liam said bitterly, where facts don't matter and everything is a story to sell. Zariah's phone rang. It was Maya. Zariah girl, please tell me you're seeing the news. Maya's voice came through, excited and concerned all at once. You're trending. There are pictures of your store everywhere. What is going on? It's complicated, Zariah said, glancing at Liam, I can't really talk right now. Are you with him? Is Liam Carter actually there? The internet is going crazy. I'll call you back, Zariah promised and hung up. Her phone immediately started buzzing with more calls and messages. This is a nightmare, she whispered, sinking onto her couch. Her quiet life had just exploded into chaos, and she had no idea how to handle it. Liam sat beside her, his face a mask of guilt and concern. I'll fix this, he promised. I'll go down there, tell them the truth, that you were just helping a stranger in need, that there's nothing between us. Will they believe? That probably not, he admitted, but it's the truth. The truth doesn't seem to matter much in your world, Zariah pointed out. Liam couldn't argue with that. They sat in silence for a moment, the knocking downstairs continuing relentlessly. I have another idea, Liam said finally. We wait them out. They can't stay there forever. Eventually they'll get tired and look for me somewhere else. And in the meantime, I can't open my shop with them camped outside. I can't even leave my apartment. I know, and I'm sorry. But if we go out there now, it'll only make things worse. Liam reached for his phone. Let me call my lawyer. He'll know what to do. As Liam made his call, stepping into the bathroom for privacy, Zariah checked her social media. What she saw made her heart sink. The story was everywhere, and it was getting uglier by the minute. Breaking. Liam Carter's mystery woman identified. As local bookstore owner, Hollywood Playboy's latest conquest, small-town librarian, and worst of all, comments that made her skin crawl. Since when does Liam Carter date black women? Gold digger alert. She probably trapped him on purpose. What does he see in her? She's so ordinary. Zariah felt sick. She had done nothing wrong, nothing at all, and yet here she was, being judged and condemned by the entire internet. When Liam returned from his call, she showed him the posts. "This is what your world does," she said quietly. "It destroys people. Normal people like me who just want to live their lives." Liam's face hardened as he read the comments. This isn't right. None of this is right. He looked at her, determination in his eyes. "My lawyer's sending a car, a private exit through the back alley. He's got a safe house where we can stay until this blows over." "We?" Zariah raised an eyebrow. "I'm not going anywhere with you. This is your mess, not mine." "Zariah, look at what they're saying. They've connected you to me now. If you stay here alone, it'll only get worse." Liam gestured to the window, where they could see more people gathering. "Those reporters aren't going away, and neither are the trolls online. So what? I'm just supposed to abandon my life, my business, because you showed up at my door?" "Just for a few days," Liam pleaded, "until my lawyer can get an injunction against these stories, until we can figure out how to clear your name." Zariah wanted to argue, but the noise from outside was growing louder. Through the window, she could see more cameras, more people. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing with calls and notifications. "Fine," she said finally. "A few days, that's it." Liam's relief was palpable. "Thank you. I promise I'll make this right." As they packed small bags and waited for Liam's lawyer to arrange their escape, Zariah couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just veered wildly off course. One act of kindness, one stormy night, and everything had changed. She had no idea that this was only the beginning, that the simple act of letting a drenched movie star into her shop would lead to scandals, secrets, betrayals, and feelings she never expected to have. Outside, the reporters waited, hungry for a story. Inside, Zariah and Liam prepared to flee, bound together by circumstances neither of them could have predicted. And somewhere in Hollywood, a man named Derek was watching it all unfold, a cruel smile on his face as he plotted his next move against the star who had threatened to expose him, and the innocent woman who now stood in the crossfire. The game had only just begun. The black SUV with tinted windows pulled up to the back alley behind Literary Brew. Zariah peeked through her kitchen window, heart racing, as she watched a tall man in a suit step out and look around cautiously. "That's Julian, my lawyer," Liam said, zipping up his duffel bag. "We can trust him." Zariah nodded, though trust was in short supply right now. She had packed only the essentials: clothes for a few days, toiletries, her laptop, and medication. The reality of what was happening still hadn't fully sunk in. Yesterday she'd been a normal bookstore owner. Today she was fleeing her own home like a fugitive. "Ready?" Liam asked, his voice gentle. "No," Zariah admitted, "but let's go anyway." They crept down the back staircase that led from her apartment to the alley. Zariah had texted Maya, asking her to handle the shop for a few days due to a family emergency. It wasn't entirely a lie. This situation was definitely an emergency, just not the kind she could explain right now. Julian opened the SUV door as they approached. "Quickly," he urged, glancing toward the street where reporters were still camped out front. Once inside, Zariah felt a momentary sense of relief as the doors locked and the vehicle pulled away. That relief was short-lived when she checked her phone. "They're saying, 'I'm your secret girlfriend,'" she told Liam, scrolling through Twitter with growing horror. "According to this, we've been dating for months." Liam leaned over to look at her screen, his shoulder pressing against hers. "None of that is true," he said firmly. "We'll set the record straight." "Will we?" Zariah challenged. "Because it seems like in your world, the lie travels a lot faster than the truth." Julian cleared his throat from the front seat. "We're heading to a property outside the city. It's secluded, secure, and most importantly, not connected to Liam in any public records." "How long will we have to stay there?" Zariah asked. "Just until we can get a handle on this situation," Julian assured her. "A few days at most." The drive took nearly 2 hours, heading deeper into the countryside. Eventually, they turned onto a private road that wound through dense trees before opening up to reveal a modern lakeside house all glass and wood. "This is your idea of laying low?" Zariah muttered as they pulled up to the impressive structure. "It belongs to a friend," Julian explained. "He's in Europe for the month. No one will look for you here." Inside, the house was spacious and elegantly furnished, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a serene lake. Under different circumstances, Zariah might have been impressed. Right now, she just felt out of place. "Make yourselves comfortable," Julian said, setting down his briefcase. "I've arranged for groceries to be delivered tomorrow. The fridge should be stocked with basics for now." He turned to Liam. "We need to talk strategy. Derek is making the rounds, painting you as unstable and violent. He's claiming you assaulted him without provocation." Zariah moved to the window, giving them some privacy as they discussed legal matters. Outside, the lake sparkled in the afternoon sun, peaceful and undisturbed. It seemed impossible that just miles away, her life was being torn apart by gossip and lies. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "OMG, Z, the reporters won't leave. They're asking all kinds of questions about you and Liam Carter. What is going on?" Zariah sighed. She couldn't keep Maya in the dark forever, but explaining the situation via text seemed impossible. "It's complicated," she wrote back. "I promise. I'll explain everything soon. Just tell them no comment for now." When she turned back, Julian was packing up to leave. "I'll be in touch daily," he told Liam. "Try not to worry. We're going to handle this." After Julian left, an awkward silence fell over the house. Zariah and Liam stood in the expansive living room, two strangers bound by circumstances neither had chosen. "You must hate me right now," Liam said finally. "I don't hate you," Zariah replied honestly. "I hate this situation. I never meant to drag you into my mess." Liam ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she was starting to recognize as a stress response. "All you did was help someone in need, and now your life is turned upside down." "It is what it is," Zariah said with a shrug, though inside she was far from calm. "Let's just focus on getting through this." They explored the house together, discovering 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a fully equipped kitchen and a media room. Zariah chose a bedroom at the far end of the hall, needing space to process everything that had happened. As evening approached, she found Liam in the kitchen, staring into the open refrigerator. "I'm a terrible cook," he admitted when he noticed her. "Usually I have—" he trailed off. "People who cook for you?" Zariah finished, raising an eyebrow. "That sounds worse than it is," Liam said with a rueful smile. "But yes." "I can cook," Zariah offered. "Nothing fancy, but I won't poison us." Working together, they managed to prepare a simple meal of pasta and salad. As they ate at the kitchen island, Zariah found herself studying Liam. In person, without the cameras and the Hollywood polish, he seemed younger, more vulnerable. "Tell me something real about you," she said suddenly. "Not the stuff I could read in a magazine." Liam looked surprised, then thoughtful. "Real, huh?" He set down his fork. "I hate making movies." "What?" Zariah couldn't hide her shock. "But that's your whole career." "I love acting," Liam clarified. "I hate everything that comes with it. The fame, the scrutiny, the lack of privacy." He gestured around them. "Case in point." "Then why do it?" "Because when I'm playing someone else, when I'm telling a story that matters, there's nothing like it." His eyes lit up as he spoke, revealing a passion that his Hollywood image never captured. "That feeling makes the rest of it worthwhile. Most days, anyway." Zariah nodded, understanding the sentiment more than she expected to. "That's how I feel about my bookstore. The business side is hard sometimes, but being surrounded by stories, helping people find the right book at the right time, it makes it all worth it." A comfortable silence fell between them, the first since they'd met. "Your turn," Liam said. "Tell me something real about Zariah Cole." She thought for a moment. "I moved to Oakwood 5 years ago after my fiancé cheated on me with my best friend. I needed a fresh start, away from everyone who knew the story." "I'm sorry," Liam said, his eyes sincere. "Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me in retrospect." Zariah smiled. "If he hadn't broken my heart, I never would have had the courage to open Literary Brew. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best decisions." "I'll drink to that," Liam said, raising his water glass in a toast. After dinner, they settled in. The living room, the TV playing quietly in the background. Zoraya was scrolling through her emails when a news alert caught her attention on the screen. "Liam," she said sharply. "Look." He turned toward the TV, where footage was playing of Derek, his manager, leaving a hospital with his arm in a sling. The headline beneath read, "Liam Carter's manager speaks out about violent attack." They watched in silence as Derek, looking appropriately injured and somber, spoke to reporters. "I've worked with Liam for years, and I've been concerned about his behavior for some time," Derek said, his voice sad and concerned. "The pressure of fame affects people differently, and unfortunately, Liam has been struggling with anger issues and substance abuse." "That's a lie," Liam exclaimed, jumping to his feet. "I've never had substance abuse problems." Derek continued on screen. "When I confronted him about getting help, he became violent. I'm heartbroken, really. I only want what's best for him." "Turn it off," Liam said through clenched teeth. "Please." Zoraya hit the power button and the ER screen went black. "He's lying, right?" "About all of it," Liam confirmed, pacing the room. "The only thing I confronted him about was the missing money. Millions that disappeared from my production company accounts. Money he had access to." "Why would he make up these stories about you?" "To discredit me," Liam explained, running his hands through his hair again. "If people think I'm unstable or on drugs, they won't believe me when I come forward about the embezzlement." Zoraya frowned. "But can't you prove it? If he stole the money, there must be records." "It's complicated. The accounts were set up so that both of us had authorization. On paper, it could look like I took the money myself." Liam sat heavily on the couch. "I trusted him. For 10 years, I trusted him with everything." The pain in his voice was raw, and Zoraya felt a surge of sympathy. She knew what it was like to be betrayed by someone you trusted completely. "We'll figure it out," she said, surprising herself with the "we." When had this become her problem too? Liam looked equally surprised by her words. "You don't owe me anything, Zoraya. This isn't your fight." "Maybe not, but they've dragged me into it anyway." She pulled up Twitter on her phone, showing him the latest trending topic. "Liam's gold digger," with her picture attached. "They're making cite my fight." Liam's face darkened as he scrolled through the vicious comments. "This is disgusting. I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault," Zoraya said, though part of her wanted to blame him. "But I'm not going to just hide and let them destroy my reputation. What do you want to do?" "Fight back," she said firmly. "With the truth." Liam's phone rang before he could respond. It was Julian. Liam put the call on speaker. "Things are escalating," Julian said without preamble. "Derek's pressing charges for assault. There's talk of a restraining order." "He can't do that. He's the one who threatened me." "It's his word against yours, and right now his arm is in a sling, and you're hiding out with a woman the press is painting as your mistress." Julian's voice was even, professional. "We need to be strategic here." "What about the money?" Zoraya asked. "Can't you prove he stole it?" "We're working on that," Julian assured her. "But financial investigations take time. Right now, we need to address the assault allegations and the situation with Ms. Cole." Zoraya didn't like the way he said situation, as if she were a problem to be managed. "I have a name, you know." "Of course, Ms. Cole, I apologize." Julian cleared his throat. "The press has created a narrative about your relationship with Liam that's complicating matters. They're using it to support Derek's claims about Liam's instability." "What are they saying now?" Liam asked, dread in his voice. "That you've been hiding your relationship for months, that Ms. Cole is the reason for your erratic behavior lately, that she's after your money." "None of that is true," Zoraya exclaimed. "I met him yesterday." "The truth is rarely relevant in situations like this," Julian said matter-of-factly. "What matters is public perception." "So what do we do?" Liam asked. There was a pause on the line. "I think we need to consider a public statement, a joint appearance, perhaps to set the record straight about your relationship. You want us to go public?" Zoraya couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Wouldn't that just make things worse?" "Not necessarily," Julian said. "If we control the narrative, present a united front, it could help neutralize some of the more salacious gossip." "And what exactly would this narrative be?" Zoraya asked suspiciously. Another pause. We could position you as friends. Say that Ms. Cole has been providing emotional support during a difficult time. It's sympathetic, dignified. But still not the truth, Zariah pointed out. The full truth is complicated and involves allegations of financial crimes that we're not ready to make public, Julian explained patiently. This would be a strategic half-truth to buy us time. Liam looked at Zariah, his expression conflicted. What do you think? She sighed. I think I need some air. She stood up, heading for the patio doors that led to the lakeside. Outside, they eat tea. Night was cool and quiet. Stars reflected on the still water of the lake, a stark contrast to the chaos of her life right now. Zariah took deep breaths, trying to center herself. A few minutes later, she heard the door slide open behind her. Liam approached cautiously, stopping a respectful distance away. I told Julian we'd think about it, he said quietly. No decisions. Tonight. Good, Zariah nodded, because I have no idea what to do. I don't blame you, Liam said, leaning against the railing beside her. This is my world, not yours. The constant lying, the strategic truths, the image management. It's exhausting, even when you're used to it. Is anyone ever really used to living like that? Liam considered this. No, he admitted. Not really. They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. Why did you help me? Liam asked suddenly. That night at your shop. You could have called the police or just told me to leave. Why didn't you? Zariah thought about it. You were in trouble, you needed help, she shrugged. It's what decent people do. Not everyone would have done what you did, Liam said softly. Then you've been spending time with the wrong people, Zariah replied. Liam laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. You might be right about that. When they went back inside, they checked the news again. The story had evolved, with new sources claiming Zariah was a longtime fan who had been stalking Liam before somehow manipulating her way into his life. This is insane, Zariah muttered, staring at a candid photo of herself that someone had dug up from her college days. How did they even find this? Welcome to life under the microscope, Liam said grimly. Nothing is private anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Z, I'm worried about you. People are saying crazy things. Please call me. Followed by another. Also, there's a man here offering me $10,000 for info about you and Liam. WTF is going on? Zariah showed the messages to Liam. It's getting worse. They're trying to bribe my friends now. We need to tell her something. Liam agreed. Someone you trust should know the truth. Zariah nodded and dialed Maya's number. When her friend answered, the relief in her voice was palpable. Zariah, thank God. Are you okay? Where are you? Is Liam Carter really with you? Maya, listen, Zariah said calmly. I'm fine, I'm safe. And yes, Liam is here, but it's not what people are saying. She explained the situation as briefly as she could. Liam seeking shelter during the storm, the misunderstanding, the false stories in the press. Maya listened in shocked silence. So you're not dating him, and you're not after his money? Maya asked when Zariah finished. No, I barely know him. That's actually kind of disappointing, Maya admitted with a laugh. The rich and famous part, not the lying press part. Despite everything, Zariah smiled. Trust me, fame isn't all it's cracked up to be. So what do you need from me? Maya asked, her voice turning serious. Just hold down the fort at the shop. Tell people no comment if they ask about me. And please, don't believe what you read. I've got your back, Maya promised. Be careful. After hanging up, Zariah felt slightly better knowing at least one person knew the truth. But as she prepared for bed in her unfamiliar room, the reality of her situation weighed heavily on her. Her life had been turned upside down overnight, and there was no clear path back to normal. The next morning, Zariah woke to the smell of coffee again. This time she was less surprised to find Liam in the kitchen, though the sight of him in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair tousled from sleep, was still jarring. I made breakfast, he announced, gesturing to plates of slightly burnt toast and scrambled eggs. Or attempted to anyway. It's the thought that counts, Zariah said, pouring herself coffee. She'd slept poorly, plagued by dreams of cameras, and faceless reporters chasing her. They ate in comfortable silence until Liam's phone rang. It was Julian again, this time with unexpected news. "Someone's come forward," the lawyer said. "A woman named Vanessa Mitchell. She's claiming she was at the hotel that night and saw everything. Says Derek was the aggressor, not you." Liam's face lit up. "That's great news. Who is she?" "A hotel employee. She was working the bar at the event." There was hesitation in Julian's voice. "But Derek's team is already trying to discredit her. They're suggesting she's lying for attention or money. Is she willing to make a statement?" "Yes, but we need to move quickly. The narrative is shifting hourly." As they discussed legal strategies, Zariah checked her own phone. What she saw made her stomach drop. "Liam," she interrupted, her voice tight, "you need to see this." She held out her phone, showing him a new article that had just been published. The headline read, "Exclusive, the truth about Liam Carter's mystery woman. Former fiancé speaks out." Below was a photo of Zariah with her ex, Marcus, from years ago, and beneath that a quote, "She's always been obsessed with celebrities. When we were together, she talked about Liam Carter all the time. I'm not surprised she found a way to trap him." Liam took the phone, reading with growing anger. "This is complete garbage. They're just making things up now." "That's my ex," Zariah said numbly. "Marcus, the one who cheated on me." She felt sick. "They found him. They're paying him to lie about me." Julian, still on speaker, sighed heavily. "This complicates things." "Complicates things," Zariah echoed, her voice rising. "They're destroying my life, my reputation. For what? Entertainment. I understand you're upset, Ms. Cole." "You don't understand anything," Zariah cut him off. "This isn't just some PR problem for me. This is my life, my business. My friends are being harassed, my ex is selling lies about me to the highest bidder, and everyone thinks I'm some gold-digging stalker." The room fell silent. Liam looked stricken, and even Julian seemed at a loss for words. "I'm sorry," Zariah said finally, more quietly. "I know this isn't your fault, either of you. I just—" "No, you're right," Liam said firmly. "This isn't fair to you, and we've been handling it all wrong." He turned to the phone. "Julian, no more hiding. No more strategic half-truths. We're going to tell the real story. All of it." "Liam, I strongly advise against—" "I don't care," Liam interrupted. "Set up an interview, someone reputable. We'll tell them everything. About Derek, about the embezzlement, about how Zariah is an innocent bystander in all this." "And what?" "About your career," Julian asked. "Going public with accusations against Derek before we have solid proof could backfire spectacularly. Some things are more important than my career," Liam said, looking at Zariah, "like doing the right thing." Zariah felt something shift between them in that moment, a new understanding, a connection forged through shared adversity. Julian sighed. "I'll see what I can arrange. In the meantime, stay put. And Liam, try not to make any more impulsive decisions." After they hung up, Zariah studied Liam's face. "Are you sure about this?" "Julian's right. It could hurt your career." "I'm sure," Liam said without hesitation. "You've lost enough because of me. I won't let them keep tearing you down with lies." His phone buzzed with a text. As he read it, his expression darkened. "What now?" Zariah asked, dreading the answer. "It's from Vanessa, the hotel employee. She says men have been following her since she came forward." Liam looked up, his eyes troubled. "She's scared. Could it be reporters? Maybe. Or maybe Derek's doing more than just spinning stories." Liam's jaw tightened. If he's willing to embezzle millions, who knows what else he's capable of? The gravity of the situation settled over them. This wasn't just about bad press anymore. There were real stakes, real dangers. "We need to help her," Zariah said decisively. Liam looked surprised. "We?" "Yes, we. She's risking everything to tell the truth about what happened, to help clear your name. We can't just leave her to face the consequences alone." A slow smile spread across Liam's face. "Zariah Cole, you are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. But not someone who would stand and fight when she could walk away." Zariah shrugged. "I've never been good at walking away from the right thing to do, even when it's hard." She gestured to the article about her ex. And now they've made it personal. Nobody gets to lie about me and get away with it. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Solidarity, determination, and maybe something more. In just 2 days, they had gone from strangers to reluctant allies to whatever this new feeling was. So what's the plan? Zaraya asked, pushing away the flutter in her stomach. First, we make sure Vanessa is safe, Liam said, already typing a response. Then we prepare for the interview Julian's setting up. And if Derek tries to stop us, Liam's expression was resolute. Then he'll find out what happens when he messes with the wrong people. Outside, rain began to fall again, pattering against the windows of their hideaway. The storm that had brought them together was nothing compared to the one they now faced. But for the first time since this ordeal began, Zaraya felt something beyond fear and anger. She felt hope. And as she watched Liam make calls to arrange protection for Vanessa, she couldn't help but wonder if this Hollywood stranger who had crashed into her life might be worth all the trouble after all. Little did she know that Derek was already making his next move, one that would test both their resolve and the fragile connection growing between them. The worst was yet to come. 3 days had passed since Zaraya and Liam arrived at the lake house. 3 days of watching their names and faces flash across news channels. 3 days of ugly headlines and vicious comments online. 3 days of growing closer in ways neither of them had expected. Zaraya stood at the kitchen counter, slicing vegetables for dinner. She'd taken over the cooking duties after Liam's disastrous attempts at breakfast that first morning. To her surprise, she found comfort in the simple, familiar task. It was one small piece of normal in a situation that was anything but. "That smells amazing," Liam said, entering the kitchen. He'd just finished a lengthy call with Julian about their upcoming interview, scheduled for tomorrow evening, with respected journalist Elena Rivera. "Just a simple stir-fry," Zaraya replied with a shrug, though she smiled at the compliment. "Nothing special. After years of fancy restaurant food, simple home cooking feels pretty special to me," Liam admitted, leaning against the counter beside her. His shoulder brushed against hers, a casual touch that sent an unexpected flutter through her. Over the past few days, these moments had become more frequent. Small touches, lingering glances, conversations that stretched into the night. Neither acknowledged the shift, but both felt it. "Any update on Vanessa?" Zaraya asked, focused on the vegetables to hide her flushing cheeks. "Julian's arranged for private security for her. She's staying at a hotel under a different name until the interview." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "She's scared, but she's still willing to speak out. I owe her a lot." "We both do," Zaraya agreed. "Julian thinks her testimony will help? It changes everything. Without her, it was my word against Derek's. With her, we have an impartial witness who saw him threaten me first." Liam picked up a piece of bell pepper from the cutting board and popped it into his mouth. "The embezzlement charges are still complicated, but at least I won't be facing assault charges." Zaraya nodded, relieved. Though she'd known Liam for less than a week, she was certain of one thing. He wasn't the violent, unstable person Derek was portraying him as. "What about us?" she asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Liam looked at her, his blue eyes serious. "What about us? The interview tomorrow. What are we going to say about how we met, why I'm here with you?" She kept her voice casual, though the question felt anything but. "The truth," Liam said simply, "that you were kind enough to help. A stranger in need and got dragged into a nightmare because of it." "And that's all?" Zaraya pressed, immediately regretting the question. What more did she expect him to say? Something flickered in Liam's eyes. What else would there be? "Nothing," Zaraya said quickly, turning back to the vegetables. "You're right. The truth is the best approach." An awkward silence fell between them, the first in days. Zaraya focused on cooking while Liam checked his phone, both pretending the moment hadn't happened. They were saved from the tension by the sound of a car coming up the driveway. They exchanged alarmed looks. No one was expected today. "Stay." "Here?" Liam said, moving to the window to peek outside. "It's Julian," he reported, relief evident in his voice. "But he's not alone." Moments later, Julian entered with a woman Zaraya didn't recognize, young, nervous, with dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail. "Vanessa?" Liam asked, stepping forward. The woman nodded. "Mr. Carter, I'm sorry to show up like this." "What happened?" Liam asked, alarm returning to his face. "I thought you were staying at the hotel until tomorrow." Julian set down his briefcase, his expression grim. "There was an incident. Someone broke into her hotel room this afternoon." "What?" Zariah gasped. "Are you okay?" Vanessa nodded, though she looked shaken. "I wasn't there when it happened. I was downstairs getting coffee. When I came back, my room was ransacked and this was on the bed." She held out a piece of paper. Liam took it, reading aloud, "Keep your mouth shut or the next time you won't be so lucky." "This is serious," Julian said. "I've reported it to the police, but given the circumstances, I thought she'd be safer here with you until the interview." "Of course," Liam agreed immediately. "You can stay in one of the spare rooms." "I'm sorry to impose," Vanessa said quietly. "I didn't know where else to go." "You're not imposing," Zariah assured her, guiding the woman to sit at the kitchen island. "You're helping Liam at great personal risk. The least we can do is keep you safe." She poured Vanessa a glass of water. "Are you hungry?" "I'm just making dinner." Vanessa's shoulders relaxed slightly at Zariah's kindness. "Thank you. I haven't eaten since breakfast." As Zariah finished cooking, Liam and Julian spoke in low voices by the window. From their expressions, the conversation wasn't going well. When Julian left a short while later, Liam's face was tight with tension. "Everything okay?" Zariah asked as the three of them sat down to eat. "Not really," Liam admitted. "The break-in at Vanessa's room means Derek's getting desperate. Julian thinks we should postpone the interview." "But we can't," Vanessa protested. "The longer we wait, the more damage he does to your reputation, to both your reputations." She glanced at Zariah. "I agree," Liam said. "Which is why I told Julian. We're going ahead as planned." They ate in thoughtful silence for a while. Eventually, Vanessa spoke up. "I should explain why I'm doing this," she said, setting down her fork. "It's not just about what I saw that night between you and Derek." Liam looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" "I've worked at the hotel for 3 years. I've seen Derek at many events with many clients." Vanessa took a deep breath. "He has a reputation among the staff for being inappropriate with women, especially young women trying to break into the industry." "Has he harassed you?" Zariah asked gently. Vanessa nodded. "Multiple times, but I need this job, so I kept quiet." Her hands trembled slightly. "When I saw him threatening you, Mr. Carter, something snapped. I realized I was tired of powerful men like him, thinking they can do whatever they want without consequences." Liam reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "I'm sorry for what he put you through, and I promise you he will face consequences." After dinner, Zariah showed Vanessa to one of the spare bedrooms, while Liam made calls to adjust the security arrangements for tomorrow's interview. When Zariah returned to the living room, she found him standing by the window again, staring out at the darkening lake. "This is getting dangerous," Zariah said, joining him. "Breaking into hotel rooms, threatening notes. It's not just bad press anymore." "I know," Liam said grimly. "Julian wants to hire additional security for all of us." "Is that really necessary?" "I think it is." Liam turned to face her. "Derek has millions of reasons to stop us from going public. Tomorrow. He's clearly willing to cross lines I didn't think he would." Zariah wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm evening. "When I let you into my shop that night, I never imagined it would lead to this." "Do you regret it?" Liam asked, his voice soft. "Helping me?" Zariah considered the question honestly. Her life had been turned upside down. Her reputation was in tatters. She was hiding in a lake house with security concerns. By any logical measure, she should regret opening that door. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it." Something shifted in Liam's expression. Relief, gratitude, and something warmer. He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat from his body. "Zariah," he began, his voice low. "These past few days," the sound of a phone ringing cut him off. Zariah stepped back, the moment broken as Liam answered the call. "It's my sister," he said, checking the screen. "I should take this. She's been worried." Zariah nodded, slipping away to her room, her heart beating too fast. What had he been about to say, and why was she so disappointed at the interruption? The night passed restlessly for all of them. Zariah tossed and turned, thinking about the interview tomorrow, about the threat to Vanessa, about the moment with Liam that almost was. When she finally drifted off, her dreams were troubled. She woke to the sound of voices, hushed, urgent. Grabbing her robe, she followed the sound to the kitchen, where Liam and Vanessa were huddled over a laptop. "What's going on?" Zariah asked. Stifling a yawn, they both looked up, startled. Liam's face was pale with anger. "Derek's made his next move," he said, turning the laptop so Zariah could see. On the screen was a website, one of those sleazy celebrity gossip sites that specialized in scandal. The headline made her stomach drop. "Exclusive. Liam Carter sex tape with mystery woman, full story inside." "What?" Zariah gasped. "That's impossible." "It's fake," Liam assured her quickly. "There is no tape, but they're claiming to have one, with images allegedly from it." He scrolled down to show blurry photos, clearly doctored, suggesting intimate scenes between them. "This is disgusting," Zariah said, her voice shaking. "How can they just make up lies like this?" "They're trying to discredit us before the interview," Vanessa explained. "Make it look like you two really were having a secret affair and now you're lying about how you met." Liam closed the laptop, unable to look at the fake images any longer. "Julian's already on it. He's threatening legal action against the site." "Will that work?" Zariah asked. "Eventually, but the damage is already done. It's spreading all over social media." Zariah sank into a chair, feeling violated even though the images weren't real. "My mother might see this. My friends, people I work with." The thought made her physically ill. "I'm so sorry," Liam said, his voice thick with guilt. "This is all because of me." "No," Zariah said firmly. "This is because of Derek, because of a system that profits from lies and doesn't care who gets hurt in the process." She stood up, anger replacing her initial shock. "And I refuse to let them win." Liam looked at her with admiration. "So we're still doing the interview?" "Damn right we are," Zariah declared, "now more than ever." The hours before the interview were a blur of preparation. Julian arrived with Elena Rivera and her small crew, transforming the lake house living room into an impromptu studio. Security personnel patrolled the grounds. Makeup artists prepared them all for the cameras. Through it all, Zariah felt strangely calm. The initial shock had given way to determination. She was done being a victim of this situation. It was time to fight back. Just before they were set to begin, Liam found her alone in the kitchen, taking a moment to collect her thoughts. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, searching her face. "Once we do this interview, there's no going back. Your privacy—" "My privacy was invaded the moment those reporters showed up at my bookstore," Zariah pointed out. "At least this way we control the narrative. We tell the truth." Liam nodded, then reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Whatever happens next, I want you to know something. Meeting you has been the only good thing about this whole mess." Before Zariah could respond, Julian called them in. It was time. Elena. Rivera was known for her tough but fair interviews. As the cameras rolled, she didn't hold back. "Liam Carter, you've been accused of assault, substance abuse, and erratic behavior by your longtime manager, Derek Morrison. How do you respond to these allegations?" Liam sat straight, his voice steady. "They're completely false. Derek has been embezzling money from my production company, millions of dollars. When I confronted him about it at the hotel that night, he threatened me. He said if I went public with what I knew, he would destroy my reputation. And is that what he's doing now? Destroying your reputation?" "Trying to," Liam agreed. "But the truth always comes out eventually." Elena turned to Vanessa. "You claim to have witnessed this confrontation. What exactly did you see?" Vanessa described the scene in detail, how Derek had backed Liam into a corner, how he'd been the one to shove Liam first, how Liam had only pushed back in self-defense before fleeing. "And why should viewers believe your account over Derek Morrison's?" Elena pressed. "Because I have no reason to lie," Vanessa said simply. "In fact, coming forward has put me at risk. My hotel room was broken into yesterday, and I received a threatening note. Do you believe Derek Morrison was behind this threat? I can't prove it, but the timing is suspicious." Finally, Eleanor turned to Zariah. "Ms. Cole, Your involvement in this situation has been the subject of intense speculation. Some reports suggest you and Liam Carter have been involved in a secret relationship for months. Others claim you're a fan who manipulated your way into his life. What's the truth? Zariah took a deep breath. The truth is embarrassingly simple. 3 nights ago, during that big thunderstorm, Liam showed up at my bookstore just as I was closing. He was soaked, desperate, and needed help. I let him stay in my apartment, on my couch. The next morning, the press somehow found out he was there, and suddenly I was being called his mistress, his gold digger, his obsessed fan. None of it was true. We'd literally just met. So there is no relationship between you two? Zariah hesitated, glancing at Liam. What could she say? That they'd spent 3 intense days together, developing feelings neither of them had expected. That in any other circumstances, she might have wanted to explore those feelings. Ms. Cole and I have been thrown together by extraordinary circumstances, Liam interjected smoothly. She's shown incredible kindness and courage in the face of lies and harassment. Whatever relationship exists between us now has developed because of that shared experience, not before it. Eleanor nodded, turning back to her notes. Let's talk about the alleged sex tape that surfaced this morning. The interview continued for nearly an hour, covering every aspect of the situation. They presented the evidence they had of Derek's embezzlement, financial records Liam had managed to save before fleeing the hotel. Vanessa shared her experiences of Derek's pattern of harassment. Zariah described the impact the false stories had had on her life and business. By the end, they were all emotionally drained, but hopeful. For the first time, they had told their side of the story, unfiltered by tabloid spin. As the crew packed up their equipment, Eleanor approached them privately. "This is going to make waves," she warned. "Derek won't take this lying." "Down. We're prepared," Liam assured her, though Zariah wondered if that was really true. How could anyone be prepared for what might come next? Once everyone had left, the 3 of them collapsed in the living room, the adrenaline of the interview giving way to exhaustion. "Now what?" Vanessa asked, voicing the question on all their minds. "Now we wait," Liam said. "The interview airs tomorrow night. Until then, we stay put, stay safe." "And after?" Zariah asked quietly. Liam met her eyes. "After depends on how people respond. Best case scenario, public opinion turns against Derek, the police investigate the embezzlement charges, and we can all go back to our lives." Zariah nodded, though. The thought of going back to her normal life no longer felt as simple as it once had. How could she return to her quiet existence at Literary Brew after all this? And more complicated still, did she want to go back to a life without Liam in it? These questions swirled in her mind as she excused herself to get some air on the patio. The sunset painted the lake in golds and pinks, a peaceful scene at odds with the turmoil inside her. She heard the door slide open behind her and knew without turning that it was Liam. "Penny, for your thoughts?" he asked, joining her at the railing. "I'm not sure they're worth that much," Zariah said with a small smile. "I doubt that." Liam's shoulder pressed against hers, a now familiar touch that somehow still sent warmth through her. "You're one of the most thoughtful people I've ever met. I was just thinking about tomorrow and the day after. What happens when this is all over?" Zariah turned to face him. "When you go back to your world, and I go back to mine." Liam was quiet for a moment. "What if I don't want to go back to my world?" "What do you mean?" "My world, Hollywood, fame, the constant scrutiny. I was already tired of it before all this happened. Now," he shook his head, "I keep thinking about what you said about your bookstore, how you love being surrounded by stories, helping people find the right book at the right time. It sounds peaceful, real." "It is," Zariah agreed. "But it's also a world away from everything you know. Maybe that's what I need, a change, a chance to find out who Liam Carter is when he's not Liam Carter, movie star." His eyes held hers. "And maybe I need someone who sees the real me, not the image on a movie poster." Zariah's heart quickened. "Liam!" A loud crash from inside the house interrupted them. They rushed back in to find Vanessa standing in the kitchen, a broken glass at her feet and her phone in her hand, her face pale with shock. What happened? Liam asked, hurrying to her side. It's Derek, Vanessa said, her voice trembling. He just sent this to my personal email. She held out her phone. On the screen was a message, short but chilling. I warned you, check the news. Liam grabbed the remote, turning on the TV. Breaking news banners flashed across the screen. The headline made them all freeze. Breaking. Fire. At Oakwood Bookstore Literary Brew. Arson suspected. Footage showed Zariah's beloved shop engulfed in flames, firefighters battling the blaze as onlookers watched in horror. No, Zariah whispered, her knees buckling. Liam caught her, guiding her to the couch. No, no, no. The reporter on screen continued. Sources say the fire appears to have been deliberately set. The bookstore's owner, Zariah Cole, has been in the news recently due to her alleged connection to actor Liam Carter. Police are investigating whether the fire may be connected to this high-profile situation. Zariah couldn't breathe. Her shop, her dream, her livelihood, her home was burning. All those books, all those stories, all her hard work going up in smoke. I have to go back, she said, standing suddenly. I have to see, I have to... Zariah, Liam said gently, taking her hands. It's not safe. If Derek did this... I don't care, she cried, tears streaming down her face. That's my life he's destroying, my home. Her phone rang, Maya. Zariah answered with shaking hands. Z, are you watching the news? Your shop. I know, Zariah said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Are you there? Is anyone hurt? No injuries, Maya assured her. I closed up early today for my doctor's appointment, thank God. But Zariah, it's bad. Really bad. How bad? Maya hesitated. The main shop area is mostly gone. The firefighters are trying to save. The structure, but the books, the furniture... Zariah closed her eyes, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Years of work, her entire savings, everything she'd built, gone in an instant. The police want to talk to you, Maya continued. They found evidence that someone broke in through the back door before the fire started. Tell them I'll call, Zariah managed. I need a minute. After hanging up, she sat in stunned silence, Liam's arm around her shoulders. Vanessa, watching with horror and guilt. This is because of us, Vanessa said quietly. Because of the interview tomorrow. No, Liam said firmly. This is because of Derek, only Derek. He turned to Zariah, his face anguished. I am so sorry, I never thought he would go this far. Zariah barely heard him. Her mind was racing through memories of her shop, the day she signed the lease, the grand opening, all the customers she'd helped, the children's reading circles on Saturday mornings, the cozy corners where people lost themselves in books. All gone now. I need to be alone, she said abruptly, standing up. Neither Liam nor Vanessa tried to stop her as she walked to her room and closed the door. Inside, she curled up on the bed, finally allowing the sobs to come freely. She cried for her lost shop, for her shattered privacy, for the normal life that seemed increasingly out of reach. Hours passed, night fell. Occasionally she heard soft knocks at her door, Liam checking on her, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. Around midnight, exhausted from crying, Zariah finally opened her door. The house was quiet, everyone presumably asleep. She made her way to the kitchen for water, then found herself drawn to the patio doors again. Outside, the full moon cast a silver path across the lake. It was beautiful, peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos and destruction that had become her life. I thought I might find you here. She turned to find Liam approaching, his face lined with worry and lack of sleep. I'm sorry I shut you out, Zariah said quietly. You have nothing to apologize for. Liam stopped beside her, close but not touching. How are you feeling? Numb, angry, scared. Zariah looked out at the moon-dappled water. Mostly angry right now? At me? Liam asked. His voice barely audible. Zariah considered the question. It would be easy to blame Liam. If he hadn't shown up at her door that night, none of this would have happened. Her shop would still be standing, her life would still be normal. But that wasn't fair, and she knew it. No, she said finally. Not at you, at Derek, at a world where someone can just destroy what others have built because they feel threatened. She turned to face him. At myself, a little. For being naive enough to think we could just tell the truth and everything would be fine. We can still fix this, Liam insisted. The interview airs tomorrow. People will know the truth. Derek will face consequences. Will he, though? Zariah challenged. Will he go to jail for what he did to my shop? Will he pay for the lies he spread about me, about you? Or will he just hire expensive lawyers and PR teams and get away with it all? Liam had no answer for that. That's what I thought, Zariah said, her voice breaking. This isn't a movie, Liam. The bad guys don't always get what they deserve. Then we'll make sure he does, Liam said, a new determination in his voice. Whatever it takes. Something in his tone made Zariah look at him closely. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I've spent 10 years making Derek rich and powerful. I know all his secrets, all his weaknesses. Liam's eyes were hard now, cold in a way she hadn't seen before. And I'm thinking it's time to use that knowledge. Liam, Zariah said cautiously, don't do anything you'll regret. The only thing I regret is bringing this nightmare into your life. He reached for her hand, holding it tightly. Let me make it right, please. Before she could respond, his phone rang, an unknown number. Liam answered, putting it on speaker. Mr. Carter, a familiar voice said, I think it's time we talked. Derek. I have nothing to say to you, Liam replied, his voice cold. Really? Not even after what happened to your girlfriend's little bookshop? Derek's tone was smug, taunting. Tragic accident, that. If you're calling to threaten us, save your breath, Liam snapped. The interview is happening. It airs tomorrow. The whole world will know what you've done. Oh, I'm not calling to threaten you, Derek chuckled. I'm calling to negotiate. Negotiate what? A deal. Cancel the interview. Sign a statement saying you lied about the embezzlement claims due to stress and substance issues, and I'll make sure Ms. Cole gets a very generous insurance settlement for her shop, enough to rebuild it twice over. Zariah's grip on Liam's hand tightened. The offer was tempting, a chance to recover what she'd lost, to rebuild her dream. All it would cost was the truth. And if we refuse, Liam asked, though they both knew the answer, then what happened to her shop will be just the beginning, Derek said simply. You have until 9 a.m. to decide. I'll be waiting for your call. The line went dead, leaving them in silence. We're not taking his deal, Zariah said immediately, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. Zariah, your shop is already gone, she finished for him, and I'll rebuild it someday, but not with his blood money. She straightened her shoulders, a new resolve settling over her. He burned down my shop to silence us. If we let him win now, everything we've lost will be for nothing. Liam looked at her with something approaching awe. You're incredible, you know that. I'm angry, Zariah corrected him, and tired of being a victim. Tomorrow the world hears our story, and Derek Morrison learns what happens when he messes with the wrong people. For the first time since the fire, she felt something other than despair, a fierce determination, a fighting spirit she hadn't known she possessed. And as Liam pulled her into a tight embrace, she felt something else too, something that had been growing between them from the moment he stumbled into her shop, something that felt dangerously close to love. Whatever happens next, she whispered against his chest, we face it together. Together, Liam agreed, his lips brushing her hair. I promise. Outside, the moon continued its silent journey across the sky, casting its light on the lake house where 3 people slept, 2 finding comfort in each other's arms, 1 alone, with her phone, sending a text that would change everything. Miles away in a luxury penthouse, Derek Morrison read the message with growing alarm. It's done, but this is the last thing I'm doing for you. Leave me alone, or I go to the police with everything I know. He poured himself another drink, hands shaking slightly. Things were spiraling out of control. The interview tomorrow could ruin him, if they had the evidence they claimed. The girl from the hotel knew too much. The bookstore owner wasn't backing down as he'd expected, and now his accomplice was threatening to talk. Derek stared out at the city lights, the empire he'd built through manipulation and theft potentially crumbling around him. He had one last card to play, a desperate move, but possibly effective. He picked up his phone and dialed. It's me, he said when the call connected. I need something on Zariah Cole. Something big enough to destroy her credibility completely before tomorrow night. I don't care what it costs or how you get it. Just get it done. As he hung up, he didn't know that his call had been recorded, or that the pieces were already in motion for his downfall. He didn't know that in a lake house by a moonlit lake, the truth was gathering strength, preparing to break free after years of lies. And he certainly didn't know that the woman he'd dismissed as a nobody, a simple bookstore owner from a small town, would be the one to finally bring him down. Morning would come soon enough, and with it a reckoning long overdue. The morning of the interview broadcast dawned clear and bright, sunlight dancing across the lake in stark contrast to the tension inside the house. Zariah stood at the kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching a pair of ducks glide across the water. It seemed impossible that just 4 days ago, her biggest concern had been ordering new inventory for her shop. Now her shop was gone, her privacy was gone, her old life was gone, and yet, surprisingly, she didn't feel as devastated as she had last night. There was a strange sense of freedom in, having lost everything, a feeling that with nothing left to take, she had nothing left to fear. "You're up early," Liam said, entering the kitchen behind her. His hair was tousled from sleep, his eyes still carrying the heaviness of all that had happened. "Couldn't sleep," Zariah admitted, turning to face him. "Too much on my mind." Liam nodded in understanding. Julian called. "The network is promoting the interview heavily. It airs at 8 tonight. Has Derek called again?" "No. His deadline passed an hour ago." Liam poured himself coffee. "I guess he got the message that we're not backing down." Zariah wasn't so sure. A man desperate enough to burn down a business wouldn't give up easily. "What do you think he'll do next?" Liam hesitated. Julian's worried he might release more fabricated material, more fake photos, maybe some doctored text messages or emails. "Trying? And to make me look like a liar before the interview airs," Zariah concluded. It was the logical move. If Derek could destroy her credibility, it would undermine everything they said in the interview. "We should be prepared for anything," Liam agreed, moving to stand beside her at the window. After a moment's hesitation, he reached for her hand. "Whatever happens today, I want you to know that I—" The sound of Vanessa entering the kitchen cut him off. She looked as tired as they felt, dark circles under her eyes. "Morning," she said, heading straight for the coffee. "Any news?" "Nothing yet," Liam replied, his hand slipping from Zariah's. Another moment interrupted. "How did you sleep?" "Barely," Vanessa admitted. "I keep thinking about that fire. If he's willing to do that—" None of them finished the thought. They didn't need to. They spent the morning checking news sites and social media, waiting for Derek's next move. Julian called hourly with updates. The interview was being heavily promoted. Early responses to the teasers were mixed. Security had been increased around the lake house. Around noon, it happened. Zariah's phone lit up with a text from Maya. "Z, have you seen what they're saying about you now? It's all over the internet." With dread, Zariah opened her browser and searched her name. What she found made her stomach drop. "Exclusive. Zariah Cole's criminal past revealed," read the headline on a major gossip site. Beneath it was a mugshot, her face younger, frightened from 10 years ago. Liam looked over her shoulder, his face darkening. "What the hell is this?" Zariah felt sick as she scanned the article. "It's from college. I was arrested at a protest." The charges were dropped, but she trailed off, scrolling further. The article went far beyond the protest arrest, painting her as a radical with a history of unstable behavior and multiple arrests, a complete fabrication. "This is insane," Liam muttered. "One misdemeanor arrest at a college protest, and they're making you sound like a hardened criminal." "It gets worse," Zariah said, continuing to read. Sources close to Cole reveal a history of celebrity obsession, including a concerning fixation on Liam Carter dating back years. She looked up at Liam, her eyes wide with disbelief. "They're saying I stalked you." "We knew he'd try something like this," Liam reminded her, though his face was tight with anger. "It's just more lies." "But what if people believe it?" Zariah scrolled through the comments section, her heart sinking at the rush to judgment. "What if they watch the interview tonight and think I'm just some crazy stalker with a criminal record?" "They won't," Liam insisted. but doubt flickered in his eyes. Vanessa, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I think I can help with that." They both turned to her, surprised. "I wasn't completely honest with you," she admitted, pulling out her phone. "I didn't just witness the fight between Liam and Derek that night, I recorded it." "You what?" Liam stared at her. "After Derek harassed me the last time, I started recording all my interactions with him, for my own protection. When I saw him cornering you, I instinctively hit record on my phone." She held it out to them. "It's all here. Everything he said, about embezzling the money, his threats to ruin you if you talked." Liam took the phone, pressing play with shaking fingers. The video was slightly muffled but clear enough. Derek's face, twisted with anger, his voice menacing as he threatened. "Liam, if you breathe one word about the money, I'll destroy you. I've done it before." "Why didn't you tell us you had this?" Liam asked, stunned. "I was afraid," Vanessa admitted. "Derek has powerful friends. I thought my testimony would be enough. But after seeing what he did to Zariah's shop, after these new lies," she straightened her shoulders. "I'm not afraid anymore." Zariah hugged her impulsively. "You're braver than you know." Liam immediately called Julian, the excitement clear in his voice as he explained the new evidence. After a lengthy discussion, a plan took shape. They would send the video to Elena Rivera to be included in the broadcast tonight. With irrefutable proof of Derek's threats, his credibility would crumble. For the first time in days, hope surged through Zariah. Maybe, just maybe, the truth really would win out. The hours crawled by as they waited for evening. Security around. The lake house was doubled, with Julian's team patrolling the grounds. The video had been securely transferred to the network. Everything was in place for the interview broadcast. Around 6 o'clock, Zariah stepped onto the patio for some air, needing a moment alone to prepare herself for what was coming. In just 2 hours, millions of people would watch as she told her story. The thought was terrifying. She heard the door slide open behind her and knew without looking that it was Liam. After just a few days, she could recognize his footsteps, the pattern of his breathing. It was strange how quickly they'd come to know each other, thrown together by crisis. "Nervous about tonight?" he asked, joining her at the railing. "Terrified," Zariah admitted, "but ready." "You're the strongest person I've ever met," Liam said, his voice soft with admiration. "Most people would have broken down completely after what you've been through." "I'm not that strong," Zariah replied with a small smile. "I've just had an excellent distraction." She glanced at him, warmth spreading through her at the way he was looking at her. "Is that what I am? A distraction?" There was a teasing note in his voice, but something serious underneath. "You know you're more than that," Zariah said quietly. Liam turned to face her fully. "What am I then?" The question hung between them, weighted with all that had been left unsaid. Before Zariah could answer, Julian burst onto the patio, his face grim. "We have a problem," he announced. "Derek's on his way here." "What?" Liam stepped forward. "How does he know where we are?" "I don't know, but security just spotted a car approaching the property. The driver matches Derek's description." Julian was already on his phone, barking orders to the security team. "We're calling the police, but they're at least 20 minutes out." "How long until he's here?" Zariah asked, her heart racing. 5 minutes, maybe less." Julian looked at them seriously. "You two need to stay inside, away from the windows. We'll handle this." But Liam shook his head. "No, I've been running from him for days. I'm done hiding." He turned to Zariah. "But you should go inside. This could get ugly." "I'm staying with you," Zariah said firmly. She'd reached her limit of being a victim, of letting others fight her battles. "Whatever happens, we face it together. Remember?" Liam's eyes softened. "Together," he agreed. They moved to the front of the house, where they could see the long driveway. Vanessa joined them, her face pale but determined. Security personnel took positions around the property, tense and alert. Minutes later, a black luxury car came into view, crunching over the gravel as it approached the house. It stopped about 30 feet away, the engine idling for a moment before the driver's door opened. Derek Morrison stepped out, looking every inch the successful Hollywood power player in his tailored suit and designer sunglasses. But there was something wild in his movements, a desperation that hadn't been there before. "Liam," he called out, his voice carrying across the yard. "We need to talk." Liam moved forward, ignoring Julian's attempt to hold him back. "There's nothing to talk about, Derek. It's over." Derek laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "Over? It's far from over." He took off his sunglasses, revealing bloodshot eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The network is running promos for your interview every 15 minutes. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Clients are dropping me, left and right." "You did this to yourself," Liam replied steadily. "When you stole from me, when you threatened me, when you burned down Zariah's shop." "I had no choice," Derek shouted, his cool facade cracking. "You were going to ruin everything I've built by exposing your theft." Liam shook his head in disbelief. "You could have just given the money back, Derek. We could have worked something out." Derek's laugh was bitter. "It's not that simple. The money's gone, investments that went bad, debts that couldn't wait." His eyes darted around, looking increasingly unstable. "I need more time. Call off the interview tonight. That's all I'm asking." "It's too late for that," Liam said. "We have the video, Derek, of you threatening me at the hotel. Vanessa recorded everything." The color drained from Derek's face. For a moment he seemed frozen in shock. Then, with frightening suddenness, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a gun. Security reacted immediately, drawing their own weapons. Liam pushed Zariah behind him, but she refused to hide, moving to stand beside him instead. "Put the gun down, Derek," Liam said, his voice remarkably calm despite the tremor Zariah could feel in his arm. "This isn't going to solve anything, isn't it?" Derek's hand was shaking, the gun wavering as he pointed it vaguely in their direction. "If you're not around to do that interview, if your little bookshop girlfriend isn't there to play the innocent victim, maybe I still have a chance." "The interview is already recorded," Zariah spoke up, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. "Killing us won't stop it from airing." Derek's eyes fixed on her, wild and unfocused. "Then maybe I just want the satisfaction." Everything happened in a blur after that. Derek raised the gun higher, aiming directly at them. Security shouted warnings. Liam moved to shield Zariah. And Vanessa, quiet, frightened Vanessa, stepped forward. Her phone held out in front of her like a shield. "I'm recording this too, Derek," she called out, her voice shaking but determined. "Just like I recorded you at the hotel. Just like I recorded you admitting you paid someone to set the fire at the bookstore." Derek's attention snapped to her, momentary confusion crossing his face. "What are you talking about? You didn't check your texts," Vanessa said, still holding her phone steady. "The ones you sent last night about the fire. I have those too." It was a bluff, a desperate one, but Zariah saw the moment Derek believed it. Panic flooded his features, his gun hand dropping slightly as he instinctively reached for his phone with his free hand. That moment of distraction was all the security team needed. They rushed forward, tackling Derek to the ground. The gun went flying, skittering across the gravel harmlessly. In seconds it was over. Derek was subdued, his hands secured behind his back. In the distance, police sirens wailed, growing louder as they approached the property. Zariah felt her knees go weak with relief. Liam's arm went around her waist, supporting her. Vanessa stood, frozen, still holding her phone, a look of disbelief on her face at what she'd just done. "You okay?" Liam asked Zariah softly. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. They were safe. It was over. The next hours passed in a blur of police statements, phone calls, and shock. Derek was arrested for multiple charges, attempted assault, criminal threats, and with the evidence from Vanessa's recording, they had enough to investigate the embezzlement and the arson as well. As evening fell, they gathered in the lake house. Living room, emotionally drained but free from the cloud that had been hanging over them for days. The interview was set to air in 30 minutes. "What happens now?" Zariah asked, curled up on the couch beside Liam. "Now we watch," he replied. "And tomorrow we start rebuilding." The word caught her attention. "Rebuilding?" "Your shop," Liam clarified. "If you'll let me help." "I know it won't be the same, but..." "Why would you do that?" Zariah interrupted. "You don't owe me anything, Liam. If anything, I owed you for taking you in that night." "This isn't about owing," Liam said quietly. "It's about wanting to be part of your future, if you'll have me. The simple statement hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning. Before Zariah could respond, Julian entered the room. "It's starting," he announced, turning up the volume on the TV. The interview began with Elena Rivera's serious face filling the screen as she introduced the explosive story of betrayal, embezzlement, and a chance meeting that changed everything. As Zariah watched herself on screen, calm, articulate, determined, she barely recognized the scared woman who had hidden in her room after learning about the fire. In just a few days, she had transformed. Hardened, yes, but also strengthened. She was no longer just the quiet bookstore owner from Oakwood. She was a woman who had faced down lies, threats, and destruction, and had refused to be silenced. When the interview ended, Julian's phone immediately began ringing. The reaction was overwhelming. Social media exploding with support, news outlets clamoring for follow-up interviews, messages from Liam's Hollywood colleagues expressing shock and sympathy. "They believe us," Vanessa said, wonder in her voice. As she scrolled through Twitter, "People are on our side." For Zariah, the validation was sweet but secondary. What mattered more was the quiet sense of closure, the knowledge that the truth had finally been heard. As Julian and Vanessa stepped outside to take calls, Zariah found herself alone with Liam for the first time since Derek's arrest. "You still haven't answered my question," he reminded her softly. "About the future, about us." Zariah took a deep breath. "Liam, what we've been through together, it's not normal. It's crisis, trauma, extreme circumstances. How do we know what's real and what's just survival bonding? Is that what you think this is?" Liam asked, hurt flickering in his eyes. "Just a reaction to trauma?" "I don't know," Zariah admitted, honestly. "A week ago, you were just a face on a movie poster to me, and now? Now you're the man who held me while I cried over my shop. The man who was willing to risk his career to protect me from lies. The man who looks at me like I'm something precious." Zariah's voice caught. "But your world and mine are so different. When this all dies down, you'll go back to Hollywood, to movies and fame, and I'll be rebuilding my little bookstore in Oakwood." "What if I told you I was thinking of taking a break from Hollywood?" Liam countered. "A long break, maybe even a permanent one." Zariah stared at him in surprise. "What would you do instead?" "I don't know yet," Liam admitted with a small smile. "But I've been thinking about what you said about your bookstore, helping people find the right book at the right time. It made me realize I've lost touch with why I started acting in the first place. It wasn't for fame or money. It was about telling stories that matter." He reached for her hand, entwining their fingers. "Maybe I need to reconnect with that. Maybe I need to spend time in a place where people see me, not my image. And maybe I need someone who reminds me of what's real." The sincerity in his eyes made Zariah's heart race. "Are you saying you want to stay in Oakwood? With me?" "I'm saying I want to find out if what's between us is real," Liam corrected gently. "Not in a hideaway during a crisis, but in normal life, day by day, if you're willing to give it a chance." Bamandi Tuanimang, Zarisha considered his words. Was she ready to let this man into her life? A man who just days ago was a stranger in her bed. A man who had brought chaos and danger, but also excitement and passion she'd never known before. "I think," she said, slowly, "that my normal life could use a little shaking up." Liam's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Is that a yes?" Instead of answering, Zariah leaned forward and kissed him. Their first kiss, soft and tentative at first, then deepening with all the emotion of the days they'd spent together. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "That," Zariah said, with a smile, "is a yes." 6 months later, the bell above the door of Literary Brew Chapter 2 jingled as Zariah finished arranging the new display of summer reading recommendations. The rebuilt shop was different from the original, larger, with more natural light and a bigger cafe section, but the heart of it remained the same. "The new James Patterson just arrived," Maya called from behind the counter. "Want me to put a copy aside for Mrs. Hendricks? She's been asking about it for weeks." "Please," Zariah replied, stepping back to admire her handiwork. The display looked perfect, just in time, for tomorrow's grand reopening celebration. After the fire and the scandal that followed, Zariah had worried that her business would never recover. She'd underestimated the people of Oakwood. Once the truth about Derek's actions became public, the community had rallied around her. A crowdfunding campaign raised enough for a down payment on a new, better location. Volunteers helped with everything from construction to painting to shelving books. And then there was Liam. True to his word, he had stepped back from Hollywood, turning down 3 major film offers to focus on smaller, more meaningful projects, and on helping Zariah rebuild her dream. His financial contribution had certainly helped, but more important was his constant presence, his unwavering support through the ups and downs of starting over. The sound of the back door opening pulled Zariah from her thoughts. Liam entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the cafe next door. "Thought you could use this," he said, handing her a cup. "The place looks amazing, Z. You've done it." "We've done it," Zariah corrected him, accepting both the coffee and the quick kiss he offered. "I couldn't have managed without you." "Sure you could have," Liam countered with a grin, "but it wouldn't have been nearly as much fun." Zariah couldn't argue with that. The past 6 months had been challenging, but also filled with joy as their relationship deepened away from the spotlight. Liam had rented a small house on the edge of town, though he spent most nights at Zariah's new apartment above the shop. They were taking things slowly, learning each other's habits and quirks, building something real and lasting from the chaos of their first meeting. Hollywood hadn't given up on Liam completely. There were still calls from directors, offers of roles. But for now he seemed content with his new life, helping at the bookstore, doing occasional voice work that didn't require him to leave Oakwood, and reading scripts carefully, waiting for the right story to call him back. Derek's trial was set for next month. The evidence against him was overwhelming, especially after more victims of his schemes had come forward following the interview. Whatever the outcome, Zariah had made peace with her part in the story. She was no longer the victim, the woman caught in the crossfire. She was a survivor, stronger for what she'd endured. As for Vanessa, her bravery had been rewarded. After testifying against Derek, she'd been offered a management position at a prestigious hotel in New York, far from Hollywood and the memories of harassment. She and Zariah still talked weekly, their shared experience having forged a friendship that transcended distance. "What are you thinking about?" Liam asked, noticing Zariah's thoughtful expression. "Just how strange life is," she replied, leaning against him slightly. "If you hadn't shown up at my door that night, if you hadn't opened it," Liam added, "everything would be different." Liam nodded, his arm slipping around her waist. "Do you ever regret it, opening that door?" Zariah considered the question seriously. The old shop was gone. Her quiet, anonymous life was gone. But in their place, she had this new beginning, this stronger sense of self, and this man who looked at her like she was the most fascinating story he'd ever encountered. "Not for a second," she said honestly. The bell above the door jingled again as a customer entered, breaking the moment. Zariah gave Liam's hand a quick squeeze before moving to help the elderly woman who had walked in. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Wilson. How can I help you today?" "I'm looking for something for my grandson's birthday," the woman replied. "He's turning 10, loves adventure stories." "I have just the thing," Zariah said with a smile, leading her toward the children's section. From across the shop, Liam watched her work. Confident, knowledgeable, passionate about connecting people, with the right book at the right time. This was her element, her calling, and somehow, amazingly, he had become part of her story. When Zariah glanced back at him, her smile warm and private, Liam felt a certainty settle in his chest. What had begun as a desperate night of seeking shelter had become the most authentic relationship of his life. The cameras were gone, the spotlight turned elsewhere, but the feeling remained, growing stronger each day. This wasn't Hollywood romance, dramatic, perfect, scripted. This was real life, sometimes messy, always unpredictable, infinitely more satisfying. And as he watched Zariah in her rebuilt kingdom of books, Liam knew that the strange twist of fate that had led him to her door on that stormy night was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Outside, the sun shone on the new sign, Literary Brew Chapter 2. Inside, Two people who had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances continued writing their story together, one page at a time. And unlike the Hollywood endings Liam had performed in countless films, this one felt true. Not perfect, not without challenges ahead, but true. A new chapter, open to all possibilities, for a man who had spent his life pretending to be other people and a woman who had spent hers surrounded by fictional worlds. Their own real-life love story was turning out to be the most compelling tale of all. The end.